So the first thing I'd like you to do in InDesign is go to Windows Workspace and select Essentials Classic. If it doesn't look like it does on my screen, then go to Windows Workspace, reset Essentials Classic until it does. Then I want you to go to Windows Object and Layout, Align. Now take this Align tab here, grab it, and pull it over onto the sidebar until it turns blue. As you move around, different things will light up, so you can just put it down here on the bottom, and then you can close the Pathfinder palette. Now to activate and deactivate these various tabs, you can click on them, and then you can click on the Close tab. The next thing I'd like you to do is go to File, New Document. And here you're going to go over to the Print menu and go down to Legal. Wait till it's highlighted, then come down to this box here, and we can actually eliminate the margins by typing 0 and then hitting Tab, and they will all zero out. Then click on, delete the check mark on facing pages, and then you can click on Create. Next thing I'd like you to do is open up the Layers palette, then come over to the toolbar here and go to the Rectangle tool, and you're going to click, hold down, and drag until you feel the rectangle come and snap to fit the entire page. Then you're going to go to the Swatches palette. You're going to make sure that the solid square is on top. If the square with the hole in the middle were on top, that would only give you a color for the outline or stroke, so we want to make sure we have the solid, and you're going to fill that with black. Then you're going to come back up to the Layers palette and lock that layer by clicking just to the right of the eye icon. Then come down to the bottom of the Layers palette and click on Create New. So we're going to leave that bottom layer locked, and we want to make sure that the second layer is highlighted so that we're working in the second layer. Then I'm going to come back over to my Rectangle tool, and this time I want to select a particular size rectangle. So I'm going to come out onto my page and just click, and when it asks me what size, I'm going to type in 16 by 9 and say OK. Then I'll come over to the Swatches palette, make sure that solid square is on top, and give it a white or paper fill. Then I'm going to return to the black arrow. That's the tool that allows me to move things around. And I'm going to bring that into the upper corner here. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, or Command C, and then come to Edit, Paste, or Command V. And I'm going to make 3 of these. I'm going to put one all the way touching the right side, one all the way touching the left side, and then I'm going to select all of them. If for any reason the background highlights, that means you forgot to lock your bottom layer, and you should go ahead and lock that and then repeat this step. Now I'm going to come to the Align palette, and I'm going to go to the Align Objects tab, the one with the line on the top. If I hover over it, it tells me that means Align Top Edges. When I click on that, it will align the top edges. Now yours may not have aligned so neatly. If these were not centered, they might align like this. Don't worry about that. There's another tool under Distribute Options It's going to distribute these horizontally by the centers. So now I have 3 squares that are 16 by 9 ratio, which is what the film ratio is, which is the equivalent of a 1920 pixels by 1080 high, which is a number you're going to get used to. And that's the first line of my storyboard. I'm going to click and drag over all of those so I have all of them selected. And then I'm going to go to Object, Group, or Command G. If I ever needed to ungroup these, I could go back to Object, Ungroup, or Shift Command G. From here, I'm going to use a slightly different technique to copy. You can certainly use copy and paste, but why not learn a new technique? I am going to click to grab on this. I'm going to start pulling it, which normally would just move it, and I'm going to hold down the Option key. Notice my cursor changes. So my hand is still pressing down as I'm moving this, and I click on Option as I pull it down, and then I'm going to leave my hand on Option. So just leave one hand on Option, and I'm going to let go of the keyboard. That will make a copy. I'm going to do Command Z to undo that and show you again. If I were just to click and drag this, it would move it. But if I click and drag, and as I'm moving it, I hold down Option, it will, when I let go, it will make a copy. Now I can get ready to move this down to the bottom. And now I'm not holding down Option, I'm just clicking and dragging as I pull it down to the bottom. Then I'm pinching to zoom out. I can also do Command 0. If I look under the View menu, you can see Fit Page in Window is Command 0. To zoom in and zoom out are Command plus and Command minus. So Command 0 will fit it into the window. If I want to see a little bit more, I can do Command minus, or I can pinch in and out. Now I want 7 rows of this. So I'm going to copy one of them. I'm going to do Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste. Now there's 3. I'm going to paste again. 4. You're not going to see this, but there's another copy. 5, 6, 7. Now I started counting at 3 because I already had 2 on there. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm not going to worry about whether these are misaligned right now. I'm going to select all of them, and I am now going to use the Distribute Vertically button on the Align palette, and then I'm going to do the Align by Centers, and then I'm going to pull them over until they snap to the page. So now I should have 7 rows by 3 wide, and I'm ready to start putting images into them. In order to put images into them, I'm going to need to use the white arrow. That will let me select the contents of this box. So using the black arrow allows me to select and move around the box itself. And if I've grouped things, it allows me to move around groups. If I use the white arrow, that allows me to move either an individual box or the contents of the box once there's something I've put inside. So the first box I want to put something inside is this one here on the upper right. And I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to locate where I've placed my 6 images for this project. And I'm going to put the first one in there. Now it's going to be a lot bigger than this box, but that's okay. There's a shortcut for fitting it into the box. I'm going to hold down Control or right click. So Control on the Mac is just a right click on the PC. Either one will work. And I'm going to go to fitting, and I'm going to go to fill frame proportionally. Okay. Now, if you had a proportion that was not 6 by 9, you might see that this gets a little bit cropped, and that is correct. That is the way it's going to be because this is the film size. Then I'm going to come to the next box, and I'm going to do the same thing with the same image. File, place. You'll notice there's a hotkey for this, Command D. It's a good idea to write that down so you'll remember it. I'm going to take the same first image and I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to go to fitting, fill frame proportionally. Okay, there's a much more complex looking hotkey for that. But once you learn it, it actually will make your life a lot simpler. So all you need to know is that this 4-leaf clover is the command key. The arrow is the shift key. So this forward slash with a little line at the top, kind of like a crooked T, is the option key on the Mac or the alt key on the PC, just as the command key on the Mac is the control key on the PC. So on the Mac, this would be Shift, Option, Command. On the PC, this would be Shift, Alt, Control. And so this will fit content proportionally. I'll try that hotkey on the next one. Then I'm going to go to the last image in this row, and now I'm going to use my hotkey. So I've clicked on this box. You can see that the anchor points in the corner have turned slightly white. That's how I know I've selected it, and there's a little dot in the center. I'm going to hold down Command and type D. That's my place. I'm going to select the second image. I'm going to put that in there, and this time I'm going to hold down Shift Option Command or Shift Alt Control on the PC and type in C, and that fits it proportionally. Now I need to put that same image over here. Now I could go through the same process again, or I can copy and place, but I don't want to copy the box. I want to copy the contents, the photo, and place it into this box. So again, I want to make sure I'm using the white arrow. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do a copy, Command C. Then when I come to this box, I can't do a regular paste, Command V. I need to do a paste into. You'll notice this has the addition of the Option or Alt to the hotkey. So it is Option Command V or Alt Command V. So I come to this box, Option or Alt Command, and type in V. Now, if I did not have the box selected and I did that, it would not work. If I did a regular Command V, it's going to float the image. So I want to have the box selected, Option or Alt plus Command V, and it will paste into. Now I go to the last box, Command D, find Option 3, paste that in, Shift Option Command C or Shift Alt Control C, then click on this, Command C, come over here, Option or Alt Command C, Option or Alt Command V to paste it into. Come over here, go and find Option 4, and I'm just going to keep repeating the process until I've filled up all the squares. Okay, Now, at the very beginning and end of my slideshow, I'm going to have a black box. And that's we're going to fade from black into the first image, and we're going to fade out at the end. So I'm going to make this box black by going back to swatches, changing the fill color to black, and then I'm going to come down here to the bottom and do the same thing. Now what we need to achieve in the middle here is we want to have 50% of the first box and 50% of the second box. So in order to do this, I'm first going to take the first box and just put whatever's in the first box on the second. So in this case, this means that it's black. In this case, I'm going to copy and paste into. So I'm doing Command C, Option or Alt Command C, V, copy, paste into, copy, paste into, copy, paste into, copy, paste into. Okay. Now, a little bit trickier is this second part, where I want to take all of these images on the edge and overlay on top of these. So I'm going to zoom out by doing Command 0, and I'm going to select everything on this page. I'm back in the black arrow now. I can either click and drag over everything, or I can do Command A to select all, or on the PC, Control A to select all. Now I want to ungroup. So if you remember, the hotkey for ungroup was Shift Command G, or Object Ungroup. Again, a good idea to write these down. So Shift Command G, and what you'll notice was that, let me undo that. You see here is this dotted line indicating that those are grouped. And if I were to use the black arrow and try to move these, they would move as a unit. So Command A to select them all, Shift Command G to ungroup them. Now I have to be careful with them because they're not locked together. I'm going to select everything in this first column, and I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to come over to my Layers palette, and I'm going to lock this layer because I want to keep everything here as is for now. Then I'm going to make a third layer. Let me go ahead and label these. Let's label this one black background. Let's label the first one first images. And let's label these ones crossfade images. Now, so I just copied this column and I want to place it exactly in the center here. That's actually pretty easy as long as I do Command 0 first. So no matter where however I have this centered on the page, if I do Command 0, Control 0 on the PC, I make sure that my other two layers are locked and my crossfade images is unlocked and selected. And then I'm just going to do a regular paste, a Command V. And that will go right in the center here. And that's because Command 0 put my page in the center. If I click on the eyeball of the first images, you'll see that I have a single column. So now on those crossfade images, I want to change those to 50%. So I'm going to need an additional palette over here, an additional window. I'm going to go to Window, Effects, and then I'm going to take the Effects palette and I'm going to grab it by the tab and I'm going to bring it over here under Align and let go. Then I'm going to click on it, go to Opacity, and change it to 50%. Then I can collapse that. Then I can click off. And if I want, I can go ahead and lock that top layer just so that I don't accidentally move something and collapse that. And if you're wondering what all these red and green icons and then these little icons here are, that just means that there is a link inside that box. You can see over here on the black box, there is no link being indicated. That's helpful information, but if I find it visually disturbing, I can go to View and select Overprint Preview, and that will clean that up. Now, the reason I'm not seeing a black arrow and I'm seeing this little pencil, if I look next to the pencil, you'll see it has a little do not enter sign. It means that I can't edit, I can't do anything to this page because I locked my layer. So just don't be disturbed by that. So I'm going to do my Command 0, and this is where you can really start to make some decisions about your work. So I can come in here and I can see that this first image is the one that's going to be slowly fading out of black. And how do I feel about black transitioning into this image? If I come down to the next image, I can preview how that image, how this first image is going to fade out and start fading into the second image. And let me zoom out a little bit more. So I really want you to look at each of these, and that's where your strategic crossfades are. If I look at the last two here that this particular student had done, I can really start to see something powerful happening as this white space. So light space will definitely show up the second image more than complicated space. Here I can start to see how even a midtone, but an empty space like the arm will really show up the first image. And this is where we start to think about juxtaposing scale, size, position, sometimes even the content of what's happening, whether somebody's asleep or awake or happy or sad. In this case, the foot is kind of obscuring the face, which might be intentional on the student's half. And this is really where you can start to see how the arc of your narrative is working. If around the center to about 3/4 of the way through the piece, you start to get more impact, then that's going to be your climax. But you also want that climax to then calm back down before it fades to black, and not just rely on the fading to black to do the calming. I actually feel like in InDesign, this fade doesn't seem realistic to me at 50%. So sometimes I might take this one particular image. Now notice I went back to layers, temporarily unlocked that top layer, then came to effects, and I might take this down to like from 50. That's strange. Oh, maybe the black is on. Oh, I see. On this one, the black is on top. So I could make the black a little bit stronger. And on this one, I could make the image a little bit weaker so that it feels to me more realistic of what would be the 50% point of a crossfade. Then, if you want to practice editing your images in InDesign, you can do this two ways. So what I would do at this point is go ahead and save this document. call this version 1. And then I can come up to pages and I can select this page, and if I hold down Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC and I pull it down below, and with my finger staying on the Option or Alt, I let go of the trackpad or the mouse, it will create a duplicate of this page. So then I want to double click on that duplicate and make sure that the highlight has changed from the number, not just the highlight of the page. Notice here the page is highlighted, but the number is not. To know which page I'm on, you want to see the page number highlighted. Now, if I wanted to make changes to these images in Photoshop, I could easily update them here in Premiere, or I might want to have to try out different images. So let me first show you how you can make changes to these in Photoshop. I can click on one of the images, and then I can do Edit Original or Edit With, and then go to Adobe Photoshop. It will open it up in Photoshop, and then let's say I make a change to the adjustments of the levels, for example. Say OK, or let's say that I make a change to the cropping. So I'm going to do a select all, and then grab the edge and make a slight change to the cropping. Now, if I went ahead and clicked on Save, when I come back to InDesign, that change will be reflected in the InDesign document. Let me make a more extreme change so I can show you. Okay, so I'm almost completely cropped out her head. So now I'm going to say Save, apply the transformation, come back to InDesign. Now, if it has not updated, I can then come over, I'm going to click on that, I'm going to come over to my links palette, and here I'll see that all my number 1 JPEGs, there's 3 of them, they have a caution sign. So if I double click on the caution sign, that will force the update. Now let me point out that change is, while I have Photoshop open, is completely undoable in the history palette. However, once I close out of this document, I will no longer be able to go back to the original. So what I'm going to do is save some snapshots. I'm going to go to the original and save a snapshot, and then I'm going to go to the new version. Now, whichever snapshot I'm on, and if I click on Save, that's the one that's going to update in InDesign. So that's the one with the head cropped. If I come back to Photoshop and I choose the other snapshot, now I can't just choose the other snapshot, I have to choose it and then save. It's only once I save that it will make a change to InDesign. Now notice here that there are, if I stretch out, let's see, can I stretch this out here? Okay, so if I stretch out my links, you can see that all the number 1s are under a group here. So when I made the change, let me go back, and let me make another extreme change. Okay, And let me make that a snapshot. Okay, then I'm going to save, come back over here, and if I get the caution sign, if I update the caution sign for the entire group, then I don't have to do it for each and every. Another thing that I can do is have a couple of alternate stories. So for this one, I had already saved in advance 6 JPEGs that were done for this story. Let's say in my links palette, so we know that I have image number 1 here, here, crossfaded here, and crossfaded here. So I have it in 4 locations total. If I go to the group folder and I either control or right click on that, or I go up to the drop down menu, I can say relink all instances of number 1 JPEG. And I can actually go and find a different set of images. This one is a completely different story. So I can take this image or a different image from the same story and click on open, and it's going to change all of those instances to that image. Then I could come to image 2 and control click or right click, relink all instances, go to another image, and it's going to update all of those. Now, obviously, it's a really good idea to save multiple InDesign documents. So I'm going to do Command Z to go backwards in that. I really don't want to lose this, so I'm going to make sure that this is indeed saved. I saved this as Slowness Storyboard number 1, and then I'm going to do a Save As, and I'm going to call this Slowness Storyboard number 2. And in this one, I can go about doing the relinking of all instances. And again, be mindful of what layer you're in. And actually, for relinking, you don't need to, but if you go in and do individual edits, make sure to go back to your layers palette. So if I come to the instance of 3, control click or right click, relink all instances, choose something different. Now I start to have a very different story. So you can even do that for different types of crops in Photoshop. Save the crop under a new name, and that way you can really play around with multiple storyboards and plan in advance for what's going to happen with these juxtapositions and crossfades for the best story possible.